Hi everybody, I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations. Got a great, very informative show for you today. It's all about Juneteenth. So come along, let's have another Cape Conversations. Hi everybody, I'm Melinda Gallant, and I have with me today, I'm so excited. It's all about Juneteenth. I have one of the organizers of the Juneteenth celebration that's going to happen here in Sandwich this coming Saturday. It's on Saturday. And his name is Lou Cerrone. Lou, nice to see you. And shaking your hand.
Yeah.
No more fist bumps for a while.
And no more of those gloves.
And no more of those gloves, that's right, and no mask on.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you and thank you for having me here.
Well, listen, Lou, you got to tell me what's going on. And first of all, I don't think I knew there was a Emancipation Proclamation, obviously. However, I didn't know that it became a celebration.
Okay, and most Americans don't know. I learned last year what Juneteenth was. And basically in 1863, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation,
right,
freeing all the enslaved people. That did not actually get implemented in southern states that were in Confederate control. They continued to keep their slaves.
Yeah.
And in Texas, which was the westernmost state of the Confederacy, it wasn't until a long time later, you know, despite the Emancipation Proclamation,
right,
besides Reconstruction, that actually happened. And the significance of Juneteenth is on June 19th, 1865, about 2,000 Union soldiers landed in Galveston Bay, came ashore, and announced to everyone that the Civil War had ended and that all enslaved people were free. And there were 250,000 slaves just in Texas at that time. So the southern states were really reluctant to let go of this. This was their, their economic system and the way that they'd always run their businesses. On June 19th of 1866, the next year, the first Juneteenth celebration was held in Texas. A small group of black people decided to celebrate, and since then, every June 19th, there have been Juneteenth celebrations in many cities and towns throughout the United States.
Really, again, I grew up in the Midwest, everybody knows that. I grew up in Ohio, right in the middle of Ohio. Ohio Wesleyan was there, and I had never heard of this, ever. I mean, there's a lot of things I haven't heard of, but I had never heard of Juneteenth. It wasn't a celebration. I don't know whether the black community in my town celebrated it or not. I really don't know. So what brought it to the forefront, do you think?
Well, I think it has been going on, and I think in the beginning it was the black minority community that did the celebration, and as other races became aware of that and became aware of the history and what had gone on, decided, this, is a worthwhile thing to be involved in. And it's basically evolved to the point where people of all races, all religions, all nationalities, get together, holding hands and talking about the terrible history of slavery and the lasting systemic effect it has in our society. So now many cities and towns across the country do it. Sandwich never has, and like I said, I became aware of this last year, and I saw something about it and did some research, and I said, oh my God, this is something that the country doesn't know about, and they certainly should. It's part of our heritage, it's part of our history.
There's good and bad history everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
And we have to recognize it all, for sure. Now, we're two white people here sitting here talking about it. So are you going to have a celebration? Will there be music? Will there be, who's on your committee?
Okay. There are a couple of, there are some volunteers that have been helping me out. I can't think of all their names offhand. I don't know that I have them written down anywhere. Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, see, there you go.
all from Sandwich.
Yep.
Paul Houlihan,
Yep.
Jacob Swenson, Kathy Odie, Bill Fleming, Tobin Wirt, Marie Blackburn, who's going to be our speaker at Juneteenth.
Oh, wonderful. I
She's
love Marie.
Yeah, she's from Mashpee.
Yeah.
Robin Miller.
Yeah.
From the the resident and artist at the
Right.
Zion Museum, rather.
Right.
JT, who is a disc jockey, his name is
Yeah.
Jonathan Thompson,
Yeah.
is going to come.
I know JT.
Ronald Williams, another musician.
I know Ron really well.
Who I talked to and has been invaluable. Jim Dever in town. Margot Critchfield, who has done a lot of social media stuff. Pete Walsh, one of my good friends, who is helping me haul stuff around.
Oh, that's great.
My friend Barry Schwartz from actually Marston's Mills, but he's going to help me after the event is over take care of trash.
Oh, sure.
And get it to.
Are you still looking for volunteers?
Yeah, can always use more. Always use more.
And they could show up that morning and say, I want to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
What time does it start?
It starts at 10 o'clock, but we're going to come at least 9 at the latest in order to set up, and there's
Right.
a lot of work to be done
Right.
then. Carrying things around, a sound system around, lecterns around,
Right.
making sure that the electricity works. We had a Black Lives Matter event in Mill Creek Park last summer, and they got electricity for us, and we plugged it into an amplification system
And it
that
blew
I
it.
had rented. We couldn't figure out how to turn it on. We thought it was
no.
broken, but finally, one person came by and said, just
Flip the switch.
flip the switch. Flip the switch.
I know. Sometimes they look so complicated.
Yeah.
They
And so what we're going to do is we're going to have Marie Blackburn, and Marie is going to talk about the origin of Juneteenth, the history of Juneteenth, and what it means today. And she's also going to talk about equity and diversity and inclusion. That's her message, and she does, as you know,
A lot of that.
a lot of that sort of work.
She does.
She is so
Where's it going to be held, though?
okay.
So it starts at 10.
Starts at 10, it goes to 1:30, okay? And Wing School, which is on Route 130,
Yeah.
which is Water Street.
Yeah.
Behind the Wing School, on the side closest to Beale Street, okay, there's some beautiful lawns
Oh, yeah,
out there.
nice fields.
And that's where we're going to be.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're going to have a stage, not a real stage, but
Yeah,
we're
but a
just in an
platform.
elevated place. We'll have the JT and his music up there. We'll have a lectern for Marie Blackburn, and she's trying to get some choral singers a cappella from Falmouth to come.
Oh, nice.
Because we're trying to rearrange our schedule to be nicer,
Yeah.
and more effective, and we're going to have.
So this is the first one, though, right?
This is the first annual, and hopefully not the last.
Well, I was going to say this is so now you can grow upon this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No,
And-
wonderful.
And you know what we didn't know coming into this, and we're learning.
That's always the way.
Learning so much by our
Right,
mistakes,
right.
And some of them have been embarrassing, and some of them have just caused like so much work and problems. But
Right.
next year we'll know much more
Right,
what we're doing, and I'm
right.
getting a lot of counsel and advice from people, on these committees and other people on the Cape.
Well, I've been driving, I drive around town all the time, and I've seen the signs. Now, what are the signs about?
Okay.
Because people can stop and read those if they're walking or they want to get out of their car and take a look at them. I know there's one down in the marina, there's one up by the pond, there's one in Mill Park, I think.
Yeah, there's one in front of
There's close to the boardwalk,
the
there's
First
one.
Parish.
Yeah.
On the corner there, the big white
Yep,
church.
yep.
In the First Parish, there is, I call them Reverend Tina and
Yeah.
Reverend Jenny.
Yeah.
And a group that they formed researched and had the posters made, and they're wonderful.
Yes, they are. I've read some of them.
Yeah, about the history of Juneteenth, what it means, the proclamation by Governor Baker declaring it a holiday, and we love to refer to that as the second Independence Day now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and then
When did he do that? Was that this year or a couple of years ago? Do you know?
I'm going to look.
Uh-oh, see, you got it right there.
Well, somewhere is what we say. Oh,
Oh, somewhere. Well,
yeah, not readily available.
okay, that's all right, that's all right. But it's been a while, it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit.
Wasn't this year.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it
Yeah.
was this year or last year, but I hadn't heard much of it before last year, so.
Right, So it might have even been this year, a little bit earlier or
right.
something.
But,
I see.
But they've created 6 or 8 wonderful posters around town.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're going to have 2 of them, 2 duplicates at Juneteenth. But interesting things like Juneteenth, what is its relevance and significance in Sandwich?
Right.
Okay. One thing is, during the Civil War, Sandwich had 293 people step up and join the Union military.
Right.
And out of those, I
I think their names are in town hall, aren't
are they?
I
Yeah.
think so.
And out of them, give or take, 50 people were killed, okay? Another almost 50, 42, 45, were either discharged for disability or for wounds. And then in addition to that, probably another equal amount missing in action or parts unknown.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
at least half of the people from Sandwich who went
Yeah.
never came back.
Right.
And you know, some pointed out their bravery and their valor, when
sure.
added to the bravery and valor of military men and women
Right.
from Sandwich, Massachusetts, and other states,
Right.
made a big difference. And maybe if they
Sure.
weren't involved, we'd still have slavery today.
Sure. Well, you know, Rutherford B. Hayes was the president over
Reconstruction?
Reconstruction. And he was a terrible president.
Was he?
Yeah. But he was born in my town. But I guess it was because there were so many, there were carpetbaggers, there were, you know, those people who wanted to take advantage of those who were supposedly freed and what have you, both white and black people at the time. But I'm curious to know, you know, it's funny because we in our little discussion before, I said I grew up on a farm, which most people know, and I rode horses and did all those fun things and showed horses and stuff. And I recently read a book about the black cowboys of Texas. And they had originally, their heritage they had been slaves, their grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and they went to work on ranches and actually became horse whisperers and all these wonderful, you would never have thought, and you never think about a black cowboy.
Right.
But it was just really, really, really quite amazing and very interesting to read about their lives. And growing up, when I showed horses in several different states, there was a black cowboy, and he would always win. He was a phenomenal person and a great guy. He was much older than I was. I was just a teenage kid. But to me, I think all those little tiny bits of information are so interesting to know about. So Sandwich wasn't a part of the Underground Railroad because we were so far north.
Right.
So did we have any, other than sending troops, was there any other thing that we had?
Well,
I mean, we did have the last black slave give us the church
Yeah,
clock.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you about that. Okay. And first we have Joseph Wilson, and there's a poster that
Yeah.
Reverend Tina and Jenny and their group put together. He was the only black Civil War soldier that was buried in Sandwich. And in 1862, he enlisted in the Louisiana National Guard. And that unit was an all-black unit, and it was made up basically of escaped slaves.
Really?
Okay?
Wow.
To join the Union Army, and that they might be free after their stint was over. He moved to Sandwich in 1874, and he died at the age of 46, and his grave is presumed to be in the spot where the Wilson house and barn were located, and in a wooded section off of Quaker Meeting House Road. I haven't been there yet, but
Is there an actual gravesite?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh.
I just, you know, it says his grave site. Oh, so there is a grave site, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously you have to preserve that now. When you find something like that, it has to be
Right,
preserved, so.
right.
Okay.
And there was another man in Sandwich, Reverend Joseph Marsh, okay? And he was involved in a society to emancipate enslaved people, to treat to treat people equally, okay? And there was, although in Sandwich they had, a proclamation of sorts or a decree, that, slavery had ended and, black people, people of color were free people, but they wanted to have that extend to all of Massachusetts. So that's the work that they were doing.
I see.
And what they were saying basically is that at first they met in secret because they didn't know how they'd be received in Sandwich.
Oh, I see.
But then they came out publicly, and it was not without a lot of problems. Okay, and they talked about, or I've heard about, in a church where Reverend Williams, was the leader of a group, and they were talking about the rights of black people,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. And there was, let me read to you something from the Sandwich Observer in 1988. Okay, it proceed-
1988 or 1888?
I'm sorry, 1888. There's a paper,
1888, okay.
and what it says is that an infuriated mob, frenzied by liquor, surrounded the building. There was a window at the rear of the pulpit through which rocks were thrown, evidently aimed at Reverend Marsh's head. A heavy window curtain saved him from probably instant death.
Really?
So that was happening, although there were official things, just like the Emancipation
Right.
Proclamation was an initial thing, the practices, in fact, had not quite caught up with that. And interestingly, now the members of the society that he was involved with and headed included people from the Freeman family in Sandwich,
Yeah.
the Gifford family, the Toby family, the Hoxie family, and the Wing families, and
So
many of
those
whom
were
I
all-
still know today.
Well, I know, they're still here. There are
Yeah.
so many of them that are still here, and they were really at the forefront of bringing equality to not only this community, but to the rest of the country, evidently, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trailblazers.
Yeah.
They really were. And again, these people were not looked upon favorably by probably the majority, vast majority
Right.
of the residents here, It was
Right.
just change comes hard.
Yeah.
And these were big changes, and all of a sudden it's
Right.
like culturally, socially, now it's time to make a big change, and
Right.
people don't do that immediately.
Right.
It takes
Right.
time.
So, isn't it all about understanding? Isn't it our differences? It's understanding our differences and accepting our differences. And it just seems to me a lot of the issues that we're having today are because we just don't understand. I mean, there are a lot of people in this town I don't understand, and you know who you are. There are. I don't get it. And because of that, I find myself saying, okay, calm down. You have to listen. Unfortunately, I don't think they always listen, but I guess I'm a little bit jaded in that sense.
It's just historic, and people look at someone different, like black people, different color skin, or Chinese, with,
Right.
with sort of
Asian,
yellow,
right.
Asian, et cetera, et cetera. They look at them as different. They look at them as other in the first senses,
Right.
threatening,
Right.
and to be feared. And
Right.
fear then
That
evolves
fuels it.
involves the treatment that that people get. And I
Right.
think, first of all, people have to learn to know all of their neighbors, regardless of their race or their ethnicity, et cetera, to see we do have a common denominator. We're all human beings.
Yeah, it's
before we're
true.
black, before we're
We all
white.
put our pants on the same way.
Right, exactly.
We're upright, smoothly.
And once you get to know people, although
Yeah.
there may be cultural differences, the way that they were brought up, again, they're basically nice people,
Right,
People are all good. Most of the people are
Right.
good, and we have to look for good,
Right.
in other people. And, and the other thing, like they say in the Declaration of Independence, preamble, all men are created equal. And
Right.
women now today,
Right.
but it doesn't say only white people
No, of course
are
not.
created equal,
Right.
and so many things, and I'm not a religious people, but I know references in the Bible about, treat your neighbor as yourself, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. Doesn't just say treat your white neighbors
No.
as yourself,
Right.
all of them. And it's just been a hard change. 400 years ago, slave ships went to Africa, went to the Caribbean in the dark of night, into black villages and
stole people, right.
kidnapped people, put them on slave boats, put them in chains in the belly of a boat. Many were brought to the United States and sold to what became slave owners.
Right.
Okay? So there's been sort of we've heard of the Black Lives Matter movement. Right. And the question is, do Black lives matter in the United States anymore? And it's just a slow, the tedious process. The change, the change is so difficult, and a lot of attitudes that the kids have come from family, come from school,
sure.
et cetera, and people just have to be more open-minded, more accepting.
What do you hope to accomplish with this event this year and moving forward?
To make what Juneteenth is known to the people, particularly through the signs that Reverend Tina and Reverend Jenny and their group have put together, and that Juneteenth is a celebration. We need to celebrate things such as that, even though they weren't recognized or celebrated or acknowledged in the United States for all those years. It's an important part of our heritage, an important part. And so because it's a celebration,
right.
we are going to have speakers, music, food, maybe people would dance, but a festive occasion.
Sure. To celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation.
Absolutely.
Not just in Texas, but everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. And then the 13th Amendment, encapsulates
right.
The Emancipation Proclamation.
Will you have that 13th Amendment so people can read it?
I don't
know.
I don't know that, and I know
that would be a good thing, though.
Well, you know what? So I get involved in this, and I started doing some research, and the research that was done at the church and their group, and there was so much I didn't know.
Yeah,
there was
sure.
so much I didn't.
Sure.
It's not taught in our schools.
No.
It's not part of the curriculum, and there's a whole movement against teaching those sorts of things, even though they were true. That just leave that stuff, don't bring it up, it's very negative, and you're demeaning white people.
Well, it's distasteful.
Yeah.
People don't want to learn about things that are distasteful, but
right.
we need to learn about things that are distasteful, My husband did DNA research and Ancestry.com, and as did my daughter, also did his side of the family. And it turns out he had a ship's captain in his family. It would be his 3 times great grandfather, maybe. And it turns out the guy, that's what he did. He went to Africa, picked up slaves, and dropped them off in Virginia. Not pretty.
But
it's true, and you can't deny it. So I'm not saying you embrace it, but you do embrace it. You embrace, well, yeah, that was part of my life.
You admit and acknowledge.
Yeah, that's all.
The case.
That's all it's about.
To me, it's so incredible that starting 400 years ago, rather, in this country, that black people were not looked at as people. They were considered property.
Oh, I know.
Like a plow or
right.
a horse. And to me, it's like, that is so wrong. Just as, in my heart and soul.
Right.
That is so wrong and very.
But our mores today have changed dramatically since then.
Yeah.
Obviously, women were considered chattel as well.
Yeah.
So there's been a big overhaul of those thought processes, I think, which is a good thing for sure.
So while we are here, we can do our little part to try to spread the word and influence the people, that we know around us, hopefully. And if all people do that, then change does start to come.
Yeah.
But it is hard. It is hard to change a culture, a national culture.
Well, I don't think people like change, first of all. Change is scary. I'm used to doing it this way. I get up and have my coffee, and I do this, and then I do that, and when you mix that up, it's like, what? You've mixed it up. I can't move forward this way. And really, everything has changed. Every day we live has changed because no 2 days are alike. So it's almost like get over yourself.
Yeah, you know,
You know what I'm saying?
people do not want to get out of their comfort zone, and I
Right,
understand that.
right.
I understand that, but you know, people just need to think about that a little
Right.
more.
Yeah.
Is this an appropriate time to go through the discomfort of
Right.
getting out of your comfort
Right.
zone? But you know,
It's history. Just learn the history.
But change is being made.
Yeah.
You know, it is. It's
Yeah.
slow and sometimes painful, but now in 2021 in Sandwich on June 19th, we are going to celebrate Juneteenth.
At 10 o'clock
At
till 1:30 or 1?
10 to 1:30.
10 to 1:30 at the Wing School, behind the Wing School.
Yeah.
You'll see everybody out there.
Yeah.
You've got music. You've got Ron Williams, who's a fantastic musician.
No, Ron is not going to do the music.
Oh.
It's going to be
Just JT.
Jonathan Thompson,
Oh,
JT.
Oh, JT's going to do the music.
But Ron's
Okay.
going to come.
But Ron's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if they ask him to perform, he's a wonderful
Oh, I've
performer.
heard.
He's a wonderful
I've
performer.
heard.
He's a great blues singer. And you're having, who else are you having?
We're trying to get an a cappella group. Marie Blackburn is working
Right,
on
and
that.
she's going to be the speaker, correct?
She's going to be the
Great.
speaker, a wonderful woman.
She is a great speaker, too.
Yeah, and a great speaker.
Yeah.
And what else was I going to say? And you know, and basically a festive occasion. And oh, I know what I wanted to say. People that are coming, it's going to be in a lawn, and we're asking people, make yourself comfortable by bringing a lawn chair or a blanket, sort of a
Sure.
picnic thing. You're encouraged to bring your own food and drink and make yourself a picnic. No alcohol, please.
Yeah.
And for people
It's on
who,
school grounds, it can't.
Yeah, and for people who don't do that or don't bring enough, we're going to have our food truck, and we are going to be selling, you know, to help defray our costs,
Right.
some beverages. And I want to acknowledge that Coca-Cola on Route 130 in
Yeah.
Sandwich donated soft
Wonderful.
drinks
Wonderful.
and Stop and Shop in Sandwich. Donated water and donated ice
Right.
and donated cups, paper cups for us to use for the water.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's great.
And that's what we need, the community to be involved in,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and they are.
Yeah, well, that's great. So again, 10 o'clock behind the Wing School till 1:30. There'll be food, there'll be music, there'll be speakers, there'll be interesting conversations made amongst people that you see there.
Exactly.
And it's all your friends and neighbors, and so come on down.
Come on down, absolutely. You know, the more the merrier, and we
Yeah.
want to make this a big event
Right,
in Sandwich, a big
right.
event.
That's wonderful.
And I know the good people in town
Yeah,
will
right.
come.
Yes, they
Yeah.
will. They will. And I heard that Saturday's supposed to be beautiful.
It's supposed to be 77 degrees.
Can't get more perfect
Yeah,
Cape Cod
can't
day.
get more perfect than that.
You're
And,
lucking out.
And people dress accordingly. If it's going to be a sunny day, you know, with the hats
Right.
with the brims,
Yeah, wear
long
your
sleeves,
sunscreen. Yep.
You know, the whole thing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so there's been a lot of work by a lot of people for
Right.
the last month and a half.
Nice.
And I am so excited
That's
to have
great.
this come. And it's in 4 days, but there's the worker part of me that says, boy, I'm glad it's over.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. And if you want to volunteer, just show up around 9 o'clock, between 8 and 9
Right, and
a.m. and
ask
help.
for Lou.
And ask for Lou.
Right.
Show up between 8 and 9 and ask for Lou.
Okay.
Excellent. Great. So, Lou, thank you so much
My
for being
pleasure.
with me
Wonderful
today.
talking with you. Thank you for
It
having
is,
me.
and again, you filled me with all kinds of new facts. I'm just going to go out and spout them.
Okay, great.
Good to see
great.
you. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and touching. Oh,
Touching
it's
is
so,
good.
touching
And
is good.
Maybe followed up by a hug.
Yeah, we might. All right.
right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lou Cerrone was terrific, had all the information. So it's June 19th. It's also been declared a holiday by our famous governor, Baker. And it starts at 10 o'clock, and it goes to 1:30, and it's behind the Wing School. And there's going to be music and all kinds of speakers and food, and bring your blanket, bring your beach chair, and come along and have a great time and learn some really, really valuable information and history. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time on another Cape Conversation.